Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Next is our citizen public comment period. This time is provided by the board to allow citizens the opportunity to address the board on issues of importance to the citizen. No individual citizen shall be permitted to address the board for more than 3 minutes. And we have Carolyn Page. As you come forward, please state your name and your address for the record. Thank you.
My name is Carolyn Page. I live at 1418 Oak Ridge Road, Appomattox, and I'm here to support Fence Out. We have a lot of children in this county. We have a lot of people in this county that it would make it a harder obligation to take care of their small animals if you change this ordinance.
Thank you. Timmy Comable.
Tim Coverdale, 8672 Holiday Lake Road. I'm here to support a Fence-In Ordinance. Since the last meeting, RAC took a dive because of what my neighbor's animals did. We spent $475, got a Band-Aid put on it. 2 weeks later, it failed. We spent over $5,000 replacing the whole system. We decided to talk to legal counsel, and unfortunately, due to the way the law is written, I'm responsible. And there's nothing we could do about it. If it had been fenced in, had this ordinance been in place, we could have held them responsible. They could have paid the damages, plus everything else that has happened. So I'm hoping you guys will see that a lot of money is being spent over the negligence of other people's animals, and they're not responsible. Thank you.
Thank you. Kelly Mayberry. Good afternoon.
Hello, here again. I support the Fence-In, but my address is 8594 Holiday Lake Road, Appomattox, Virginia. I just wanted to cover some clarity on the Fence-In, Fence-Out law, the way I'm perceiving it. After the last meeting, so much
Ma'am,
anger.
can I interrupt you a second?
Yes.
You spoke at our public hearing.
The
on
last month?
subject.
Yes, I
ma'am.
did.
You're not allowed.
Okay.
According to our rules. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes,
Mr.
ma'am.
Chairman, I'd like to bring up the last man I think spoke at your meeting, didn't
Yeah, I didn't know
Did what?
he? The last man spoke at the public.
that. I did too. I did not know that.
Okay, thank you. Sometimes we'll overlook these things very easily. Well, yes, okay. Ms. Mayberry, since we allowed the other gentleman to speak, come on up. Sorry for all the confusion.
I apologize also for all the confusion that you guys have had to go through. From a standpoint, as a person that's been in agriculture, I make my living on agriculture. My daughter is a longtime member of FFA. I'm FFA alumni. I've fenced in 5 properties. I've had anywhere from 10 to 80 feeder calves. I've had everything from goats to llamas and chickens. My perception of fence in and fence out, with the way the ordinance reads, when you permit your animals to run at large, permit means give consent. That in no way, in my perception, threatens the farmer or any agriculture person, because we want to keep our animals in, keep them safe, because we can't make a living off of them if we don't anyway. The misconception that I see is that we were talking about it would affect business, it would affect the FFA, it would affect our wonderful school program that I am so behind. And so I went home and I thought, am I behind something that's gonna take away from my daughter and from this county and our wonderful ag programs that we have. And then I see that most of our surrounding counties are fenced-in. Was born and raised in Bedford County. That's why it seems so odd to make us like, well, everybody fences in. Why wouldn't we fence in? Why would this be an issue? And then I started checking surrounding states. And all of our surrounding states are fenced in. It's part of a common law understanding, which Virginia was prior to the Civil War. During the devastation of the Civil War, then they made arrangements to allow fence out because everything was so tore up. This is by no means an attack on anybody, just a position to help stop someone, as the Coverdales endured. She drags the goat home and says, please keep the goat out of my flowers, and the people refuse to do it. That does exist, and I know it sounds crazy that you would think that somebody would do that. I thought it was crazy, but it does exist. And when it does happen, there is no avenue for somebody to protect anything. And I think anybody with a flower garden or anything they care about don't want disrespected that way. So thank you guys for your time.
Thank you. Ms. Annie Trent? Dave Knight.
I'm Annie Trent, 2582 Beckham Road, Appomattox, Virginia. I'm here to, because of the public hearing we had last month. It's good evening, board members. The Carla Price Legacy Museum has a few questions on the amended lease agreement for 2019. We ask that a date be set with the Board of Supervisors and Ms. Orma Hoare, Business Manager, Ms. Darlene Reed, Museum Chair, and Annie Trent, President of the CPAA, to meet for the said questions. With this being said, we are asking for the voting on the amendments be extended until your next July meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Has anyone else would like to address the board that failed to sign up? Okay, hearing none, we'll move right on. The board welcomes Mr. Tim Trent, Administrator of the Blue Ridge Regional Jail update. He's going to give us an update on the jail authority. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, board members, I'm Tim Trent. I'm the Administrator for Blue Ridge Regional Jail Authority. And I guess it was probably 2 years ago I was down here and give you an update on how things were going and how we were spending the money that Appomattox gives us every year for our budget. So this is just an update. Give you a brief overview. As you know, Blue Ridge Regional Jail Authority was formed back in '98 with several jurisdictions. Appomattox and Amherst joined in 2006. And so currently we have Appomattox, Amherst, Bedford, Campbell, City of Lynchburg, and Halifax as a member jurisdictions. We have 5 jails spread out over a pretty large geographical area from down there in Halifax all the way up to Amherst and out to Bedford. We have 410 employees, so we're a very large employer in this area. Most of our employees, I'd say the majority of them come from the jurisdictions in which we serve. We can hold up to about 1,700 inmates. That's the number of beds that we have in all 5 jails. Right now we're averaging about 1,200 inmates on any given day. And that's from all jurisdictions and holding outside jurisdictions. I'll get to that in just a second. Appomattox's average daily population is about 63. So we hold about 63 inmates throughout our jails on any given day for this jurisdiction. Our current budget, which was approved by our board, let me back up. The budget for fiscal year FY20, which will start July 1, July 1st, which was approved by our board, is approximately a little over $35 million. The member jurisdictions portion, which is split up amongst all 6 jurisdictions, is about a little over $12 million. Appomattox's portion is $957,000, which is roughly about 6.279%, and that's figured based on our service agreement on historical averages and historical usage. So for last year, that was about what Appomattox used of the ADP, and so that's how the budget is figured according to our service agreement. The biggest portion in our budget is salaries and fringes, which is about a little over $16 million, or 46% of our budget. Majority of that does come from the state, so it does not come from the jurisdictions. Part of it does. Our medical costs are about $2.5 million a year. We contract our medical, mental health, pharmaceutical, as well as our x-rays. Any type of scans, CTs, all that's done in-house for safety and security purposes. It saves us on transports, it saves us, we also have a dentist in-house, so we do all our dental work in-house as well. Our cost per day per inmate is figured on our total anticipated ADP and the total cost. So this year, as of April of this year, was $5.92 per inmate per day. That's in comparison to May 2013. I tried to do about the same time of the year, which was about $4.43 an inmate per day. We meet quarterly with our physician and our pharmaceutical team to discuss trends, high cost, inmates, formularies, alternatives, and it has saved us money by coming up with alternatives in medications. For example, HIV drugs are very expensive. And one of the things that we did, we worked with the local clinic in Lynchburg, our pharmacist, our medical doctor, and their local clinic to determine, they came up with, and I'm not medically trained, so it was some type of compound or combination of drugs they were able to use that was a lot cheaper and it had the same effects, and everybody was in agreement. So a 30-day supply of HIV medication can be well over $1,000 for one drug. And we have several inmates that are currently HIV positive. Our food cost is about $1.3 million. We do contract that out as well at all 5 sites. Our cost per day per inmate, and that's 3 meals a day, approved by a registered dietitian, is $3.04 for 3 meals, as compared to May of 2013, it was $3.33. Past 7 years, our overall expenses have gone up a little over 6%, with the exception of our debt service. Our debt service was combined when Amherst was built with our current debt service, and it sits about $3.9 million per year over the next around 20 years. In that same 7 years, however, our member contributions only increased 2.5%. And from 2013 to 2019, we only went up 0.5% in member contributions. And we were able to do that. And this current fiscal year coming up in 2020, it went up 2%. And that was because our CIP, our capital improvement plan, is going up because our buildings are getting older. And I'll explain that in just a second. So we went up expenses 6%, but we only went up in your contributions 2.5%. And we were able to do that by cutting this certain lines and running efficiently as possible, and other projects. And for example, I reported to you last time that we partnered with Honeywell and did an ESCO project, which is an energy savings project throughout our facilities. And since 2015, or between 2015 and 2018, we've saved $1.3 million in energy costs in 3 years. We house outside jurisdictions. In the current fiscal year, which is FY19, as of April of this year, we have received $732,000 in holding outside jurisdictions. In FY20, we're anticipating $1.2 million to hold because we picked up another contract of another county that will be building a jail, but it will be extended out 3 years, so we'll be holding those inmates as well. Also, in 2016, I negotiated an upfront payment from our telephone contract of $4.2 million, and that money was put into a reserve, and we are drawing out of that each year, so that's another reason we're trying to keep the member contributions down. This information that I'm getting ready to present to you comes from the jail cost report, which is an annual report that the General Assembly says that we must provide, and it's provided through the compensation board. And the most recent one, and you can go on the Virginia Compensation Board website under publications, in 2017 is the most current one because they're behind a year or so. And it says the average share of expenditures for localities, which is, for this case, would be Appomattox and the other member jurisdictions, is 56.5% of all our expenses. Whereas Blue Ridge's member jurisdiction share is 46%, so we're almost 10% below that. And if you take out the debt service, it's only 39%. State average cost per day per inmate for all jails across Virginia is $85.83. Blue Ridge is $70.77. We're almost $15, well, we are $15 per day per inmate below the average of what it costs jurisdictions. A couple of current projects. We're getting ready to switch our JMS, which is our jail management system. Our current jail management system is outdated. We're having a lot of problems, and the company that we deal with is not providing the support that we pay for. And we're paying, right now for the JMS, is a little over $100,000 a year. So by switching, I'm going from paying $100,000 a year to $17,000 a year for support. So we do have some upfront costs, but over a 5-year period, we'll be saving $345,000 in the service cost. And what this will allow us to do is to implement tablets, which we can use as a disciplinary tool. We can have education programs, religious programs. We're also looking to implement an EMR, which is electronic medical records, because we're one of the few jails, because of the JMS and the way it communicates between the 5 sites, we can't have an EMR right now. We're going to get one in the future, and we'll streamline our medical process even more. We're currently contracting with Honeywell to do recommission of our Amherst facility, even though it's our newest facility. It is, I don't want to throw anybody under the bus as far as the engineering process, but that building's been messed up since day one as far as balance. We're having a lot of balance issues. And while we're doing that, we're going to upgrade all of the infrastructure and the controls throughout all 5 jails. And the benefits will reduce cyber security risks, avoid extended system downtimes, and lower energy costs to maintain comfort throughout our jails. There's a couple different things in our jails that can cause issues, and that's food, getting real hot, getting real cold, or water shutting off or something like that. So we try to be proactive so we don't have to be reactive when it happens. Our capital improvement plan, I talked about it a few minutes ago, with the exception of Amherst, which opened in 2012, our other jails are from 20 to 60 years old. They're open 24/7, the lights is on all the time, air conditioner or heating, people in it all the time, doors open and shutting. And we're having a lot of problems with stuff breaking down, the infrastructure. So our CIP, which is our capital improvement plan, will be increasing over the next couple of years. It's currently, the allocation that we have in our current budget, or our upcoming budget, $750,000. And it's all broke down and spent already as far as the HVAC system and various things. We also replaced some of our expense line items in our budget with commissary funds. The Code of Virginia says we can use inmate welfare funds to offset the cost if we purchase stuff for inmates, such as mattresses and uniforms and supplies, and we save probably anywhere from $100,000 to $200,000 a year by using that money. It's not, it doesn't come from, it comes from proceeds from selling honey buns and snacks throughout all our jails. That doesn't come from any jurisdiction. We recently partnered with Horizon to hire a discharge planner. One of the things that I saw about 3 years ago was we were starting to have individuals come back into our jails with mental health issues. Mental health is big right now. So I partnered with Horizon, and we actually, a discharge planner, if an individual has mental health issues, we'll provide them with enough medication to get to their next appointment. We'll set the appointment up. We'll reconnect them with their family, a job, a house, transportation, and so those people don't come back. And we're seeing that group of individuals, the recidivism rate is going down. So we're not seeing those people come back to our jails. So that's very good, and that saves us money. If you figure the cost of inmate per day, and the first year, I was hoping to have the figures tonight, and Horizon hadn't sent them to me, but the first year, it was like between 75 and 80% of individuals with mental health that we dealt with on a regular basis that come through like a revolving door didn't come back. And so, y'all didn't pay for them, we didn't have to deal with them. And, you know, we have a lot of issues when you have people in a jail where they shouldn't be if they have mental health. So, just a couple other things. I currently chair the liaison committee with the Board of Corrections, and on the legislative committee for our association, so I spend some time in Richmond and try to, what I call, keep my finger on the pulse in order to help with issues and legislation that affects our jails. I was recently asked by Bernie Francis, who's the board of the chairman for the Board of Corrections, to sit on a mental health committee to go over some new standards dealing strictly with mental health, and this come out of the General Assembly this past session. We continued off training and classes to our inmates, GED, Serve Safe, life skills. We do a reentry program that provides them with opportunities to fill out resumes, get an ID, get your social security card, learn how to balance a checkbook, reconnect with their family, their kids, and so we've been very successful in that program as well. We also partner with CVCC and Region 2000 to, there was some technical classes the inmates could actually get certification by the time they got out, and we had a company in Lynchburg that would guarantee them a job. So that's basically an update. I'm sorry I got a little long-winded, but I wanted to let you know what we were doing, so if anybody's got any questions.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Hope.
Tim, what's the name of the company that did the new JLS system? Or have you got to that point yet?
Yes, it's actually Jail Tracker. I'm trying to think of the parent name. It's on state contract, so we were able to get a good deal.
Okay, only reason I ask, I know a lot of law enforcement agencies are changing their record management systems due to the previous vendor going belly up. So I didn't know if it was something similar or not.
No, this company that we've had for years and years and years, we've had issues, and they're starting to not put as much effort into taking care of us, and they're not upgrading things. And you know, there's several, I'd say probably 7 jails across the state that want this jail track, and they love it. And so, you know, we've got good reviews. We did our research, and like I said, it's on state contracts, so it saved us time and effort from going through the RFP process. So,
Mr. Ed.
Tim, you gave us a figure of $5.92 a day. Is that the cost of Appomattox? Is that-
no, sir. That's the overall cost.
Well, then you gave us a figure of the state average was $85, and we were averaging, here, I think you said $70. But earlier, is that correct? State average cost per inmate a day is $85. You have an average of $70?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What was the $5.92 then? Was it, that was?
That's it, medical costs per day, per inmate.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. Let me ask you, what is your average number of inmates a day?
1,200.
All right, when I take 1,200 into 35, when I take that times 365 and go into 35 million, you said your budget, I come up with $80 a day rather than $70 a day cost. Now, maybe my math was wrong, but that, it just didn't, while you were speaking, that's what I came up with, of the cost per day. If you,
The figures that I give you were from FY20. The figures that for the average statewide cost per day was from FY17, that come from the Virginia Jail Cost Report.
I'm not dirty, you mean your figures came from the state, or the $85 a day came from the state?
The $85 came from the compensation board, the jail cost report.
I wouldn't question that. I'm just saying, in my very brief trying to sit here, I came up with your cost, instead of $70 an inmate a day, it's $80. When I took 1,200 times 365 and then divided into 35 million, that's what I came up with. Now, I may be wrong, but that was what I came up with, the cost per day, rather than $70.
We talking about 3 years difference here. The 35 million is the FY20 budget.
Okay,
The information I give you come from FY17.
so we can look then, when we get into 20, if we continue to average 1,200 a day, we're gonna see a pretty remarkable increase then in our cost per day. Okay,
I don't know.
thank you.
Any other questions? We certainly do appreciate your time and effort to come see us, pay us a visit, and, thank you for the work that you all do. I know it's helped us in a lot of different ways.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Look like we're running on time.
Thank you right there.
Now we have a public hearing on, a conditional use permit 190211. This is in regard to a conditional use permit to locate a 554-foot tall wireless communication facility on property located off of Oak Ridge Road, Route 663 in Oakville area. The parcel totals 30.46 acres and is identified as tax map identification number 19A4H. The WCF lease area, approximately 10,000 acres square foot, will be located approximately 350 feet of Oak Ridge Road. The property is zone A1, agriculture zoning district, and is designated as rural preservation area by the comprehensive plan. So this public hearing is now open. Anyone like to address this CUP? And I will say this too, the planning commission recommended approval of this petition at its regular meeting in May. So I'll wait another minute or so and maybe somebody might want to say something for or against.
I am here representing US Cellular if you guys have any questions for me while I'm here.
Oh, okay, thank you. You can introduce yourself.
My name is Emily Switzer.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So if you do have any questions, take a run at him. Hearing none, then I'll declare this public hearing closed. Next, we'll go into action items. Revised Appomattox County Personnel Policy. Consider the adoption of revised Appomattox County Personnel Policy to be effective July 1, 2019. Staff recommends adopting this revised policy. Any questions from anyone? The floor is open.
Mr. Chairman,
What's up?
Mr. Ms. Adams, I know that the constitutional officers who have signed on to the MOU to follow our personnel policy, they were involved in this process in formulating this new policy. They're all fine, as I understand it,
Yes,
with everything in this policy.
they were.
Well, that was a thick policy. Y'all done a good job. Anybody else have any
Mr. Hogan,
questions, concerns?
As a point of clarification, we have worked with the constitutional officers. We're still working out a couple of bugs with the sheriff's office, but it doesn't affect the adoption of this policy. We're just trying to figure out how to integrate a couple of things they do into the existing policy. So the sheriff's aware of it, he doesn't have any opposition to this policy. There's just a couple of incongruencies with how they operate that we're trying to iron out, but it doesn't affect the board adopting the policy tonight, and the sheriff is good with that.
So would we have to make an amendment later maybe to?
No,
fix that?
it wouldn't be amended.
Process.
It's just our internal, how we're gonna operate
Okay.
issues.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the newly revised personnel policy for Madison County employees.
Motion to duly made, is there a second? Any further discussion? We'll have a roll call vote. Mr. Moody?
Aye.
Mr. Evans?
Aye.
Mr. Hogan?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
I also vote aye. Thank you, Ms. Adams, and the staff, and the constitutional officers and all, and our Department of Defense, as I call it, our county attorney. Next, we have the FY 2020 budget and appropriation resolution. The board approved the FY 2020 budget on the May 13th meeting. Attached is our review and consideration for approval is a resolution appropriation for 2020 budget effective July 1, 2019. Staff recommends adopting the attached FY 2020 budget appropriation resolution in the amount of $41,072,697. Floor is open for discussion on this item. Well, I'd like to say too, in connection with the budget, that the board, staff, all has worked on, I want to say again, 4 years, no tax increase. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to adopt that resolution.
Thank you. Motion been made, is there a second?
Second.
Duly second, is there any more discussion? If not, we have a roll call vote, Mr. Moody.
Aye.
Mr. Adams.
Aye.
Mr. Hogan.
Aye.
Mr. Miller.
Aye.
I also vote aye. Thank you very much. Next is the proposed Fence-In Ordinance. After being duly advertised and meeting ordinance posting requirements, a public hearing was held at the April Board of Supervisors meeting to receive public comment on the proposed ordinance. The ordinance is included on the June agenda for the purpose of board discussion and/or consideration for adoption. Floor is open for discussion on the proposed Fence-In Ordinance.
Do you need a motion, Mr. Chairman, for your discussion?
Would do.
Technically under Robert's rules, discussion follows a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I would move we adopt this ordinance.
Okay, is that a second? I'll second it then. Discussion.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Moody.
and fellow board members, we've been at this, for quite some time now, and here in the recent past, had some information come to light, in speaking with our legal counsel, thoroughly speaking with our legal counsel, and then also reaching out to some of the farming associations, and through the information that I think we have in front of ourselves, I think it would behoove us, I know we have a motion and a second, but I believe it would behoove us to really take the additional information, even though we have been at this for some time now, and work with those associations to make sure that we do what's in the best interest of every citizen in the county, even though this is a really difficult, decision to make, because everything has a wax and a lean to it. There's always something that you try to do in the best interest of the citizen, and then unfortunately you may do something to harm another citizen. So I think there are some other options out there in those discussions with legal counsel that I'd really like for us to have the opportunity to pursue those options and do that in conjunction with some of the farming associations to make sure that they're side by side with us. And in specific, the local farm bureau has said that they would be willing to meet with us in an effort to protect all citizens involved, and to protect the property owner and to protect the farmer.
Okay. Further discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Adams.
I made the motion, I'd just like to make a statement. And I hope the Farm Bureau will if this fails, that the Farm Bureau will make some recommendations. I was very disappointed in a letter that came in here during the public hearing that quoted 2 code sections, said we could use, that nothing in those code sections would address the problem we have now. And I have worked for 26 years in the General Assembly with the Farm Bureau. They were above reproach, always honest and above board, and I think in that letter we got, they handled the truth a little loosely.
Discussion, public discussion.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, go ahead.
You go ahead, you.
We'll have to take this out.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to, in the people in my travels in my district, I think people are confused. People don't know, number one, what the law is today. They don't know what the code ordinance would do. They don't understand fence in versus fence out. They don't. There's a lot of confusion about it right now. Unfortunately, and I'm a member of Farm Bureau. Unfortunately, I think Farm Bureau has led to some of that confusion. We had a member representing Farm Bureau come here when we asked for information. Started this process 10 months ago. I think he came in August. He came and said Farm Bureau took no stance on fence in, fence out. And then he came to the public hearing and said they were opposed to it. Okay, so which is it? And we have approached them and tried to make them a part of this conversation to come to some agreement. So I'm with Mr. Moody. If we can come to some agreement that addresses everybody's concerns, we need to do that. I don't think the ordinance as presented tonight I could vote for because it has several things that concern me. But if we can get to a point that addresses the issue, because it is a problem, but also alleviates the concerns that other folks have, which I think a lot of that can be done with education, then I'm all for putting it off until we can come up with something better. If not, then tonight I'm a no.
Thank you. Mr. Bill.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to echo the sentiments of Ms. Moody and Mr. Hogan. I too have received phone calls from concerned citizens ever since ordinance 24 advertisement for public hearing. You know, next year Appomattox County turns 175 years. If you look part of the seal, a big part of that seal is part of the history of Appomattox is farming. And I think we need to work together with the Farm Bureau, the FFA, and the citizens to try to see what we can come up with together to solve the issue for everybody that will be fair to everybody involved. So for that reason, I cannot support the ordinance as it is tonight.
Okay, thank you. Motion is made, been seconded. Any further discussion?
Question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
So do we vote, I know it's on the table, do we vote on it, or can we lay it on the table till we get some more information? And what's the proper procedure?
Well, you really have multiple options. You could obviously vote to approve it tonight. You could vote to deny it, reject it. If you vote to reject it, it starts over from scratch. You could defer to a specific date, in which case you would not have to have a public hearing, or you could defer generally, and then you would have to schedule another public hearing. You'd actually have to take board action to schedule it again and have another public hearing. So those are your 4 options. I'm glad to repeat them if you need to.
Please.
Vote yes, vote no. Those are the easy ones. The other ones are a defer to a specific date. You say we're going to defer it to next month. Well, if you defer it to next month, the public hearing we held is adequate. If you defer it with no date, that in essence takes it off the board's agenda until somebody takes action to put it back on an agenda, and when we put it back on an agenda, we'll have to have another public hearing.
So options 1, 2, and 4, 2 and 4, we need another public hearing.
2 and 4, you either, if you vote it down, then you'll need to have another public hearing, or if you just defer it generally, you need to have another public hearing. But from what I'm hearing, we might want another public hearing anyway, just because of all the input we're seeking, so.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Davis.
my concern with any deferral is that, as it reads right now, it's gonna be difficult because we involve the county in enforcement. So I think if we're gonna move forward, I would really like to see the county not be involved in you know, first line enforcement of this thing to the degree that it is now. So, you know, personally, I would like to see us revisit this thing with the, you know, with the information at hand, and, that's just the position that I take on this, Chairman.
Okay. In other words, you said you would vote.
I would like to vote on it, yes, sir.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Now go to roll call.
Yeah. Mr. Moody?
No.
Mr. Abbott?
Aye.
Mr. Hogan?
No.
Mr. Bill?
No.
I vote aye. So 3-2. No.
Move the motion defeated.
Yeah, motion defeated. Next is committee appointments, CDACL appointments. At the April meeting, Mrs. June Chenault submitted a letter of resignation from her CDACL Board of Directors, and the board opted to request staff contact Mrs. Silverman for recommendation. An email from Mrs. Silverman stated that the CDACL bylaws changed and they are no longer, require 2 representatives from each locality. Currently, Mr. Robert Fox serves as Appomattox County Board's representative. Additionally, Mrs. Silverman communicated that the appointments are not county appointed, only recommendation. Mrs. Silverman will be contacting staff in July to offer other alternatives for appointment and suggestions. I'm glad we got that level.
So no current action is required.
Right, so we don't do anything. So gentlemen, next is consideration of the conditional use permit 190211 that was passed by the Planning Commission unanimously. The floor is open for discussion. Proud to vote on this subject.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Hope.
do we know, I know no one spoke tonight, one way or the other, did anybody speak at the planning commission public hearing?
No, Mr. Rourke said no one spoke,
But
and
all
there
the-
were no, issues identified.
all the adjoining landowners were notified and they noticed what's happening and they had the opportunity to come.
Yes.
Has anyone expressed opposition to this, conditional use permit?
He's not received any comments at all.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Moody.
Ms. Adams, do you know if in this, are there any, and please forgive me, I probably should have asked the young lady with the power, oh, she's here. Is that appropriate if I ask her a question, Mr.
Yeah,
Chairman?
yeah.
Do you know if there are any easements, like power easements, or is there anything that's gonna impact anybody's property on the way to put this thing up?
No, so we have, USCOC has an easement from Oak Ridge Road to where they're leasing, and they'll meet with the power company, and all of the, utilities and everything will be ran underground in that 30-foot easement that USCOC is leasing.
And that's already existing?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. What's the board's pleasure? Is there a motion to approve?
Mr. Chairman, I move, we approve the conditional use permit.
Is that a second?
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Next is, rezoning 190289 Thomas Corbin, setting a public hearing. We need to schedule a public hearing at the next regular Board of Supervisors meeting to receive comments for the rezoning petition of Mr. Thomas Corbin. The Planning Commission at its regular June meeting recommended approval of this petition. So, gentlemen, you got your calendars out?
July 15th?
15th? Okay.
Next meeting.
Next meeting, yes, sir. Is that good with everyone? We need a motion.
Just, allow staff to advertise.
Is there a motion?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Is that second? Discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Next is our consent agenda, which includes approval of bills, minutes, supplemental appropriations, line item transfers, and fund transfers. Any item on the consent agenda shall be removed from the consent agenda at the request of any board member prior to the vote on the consent agenda. Items removed from the consent agenda shall be considered by the board individually in order in which they were removed from the consent agenda immediately following consideration of the consent agenda. So I hope everybody's had an opportunity to review the consent agenda. Any questions?
Mr. Chairman, make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Motion been duly made, is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call vote, Mr. Moody.
Aye.
Mr. Adams.
Aye.
Mr. Hogan.
Aye.
Mr. Miller.
Aye.
I also vote aye. Mr. Latch.
Mr. Chairman, you got on your, before you on the agenda, a memorandum of understanding that we drafted up in conjunction with the Commonwealth's attorney. The General Assembly put surprisingly an unfunded mandate in the budget that if our Sheriff's Department had body cameras, that we had to provide the Commonwealth's attorney a full-time additional staff person to review video. Unless we reached some sort of alternative agreement with the Commonwealth's attorney. The county administrator and I met with the Commonwealth's attorney, and Commonwealth's attorney concluded he did not need a full-time person. He felt like a part-time person would give him the resource he needs, because there's new state law that's coming into effect that all body cam footage has to be reviewed by an attorney. And so what you have before you is an MOU that instead of the full-time person, which would cost us $70,000+, the Commonwealth's attorney believes he can do this for $35,000 and get somebody part-time that will be adequate to accomplish what the General Assembly says we have to do. We have to file a report with the state by July 1, telling them either we have given him a full-time person or we have agreed on something else with him. So this is our stab at complying with state law and coming into an agreement so that we can send the state the MOU and let them know that we have come into an agreement with the Commonwealth's attorney. Mr. Fleet is here, I'm here if anybody has any questions.
Floor is open for discussion.
Mr. Chairman, is this another one of my predecessor's favorite thing called an unfunded mandate?
Yes, sir.
So we got zero, not even a percentage of this, $0.
No dollars. Here's the crazy thing. If your sheriff's department has one body cam,
And they push the button.
if they have one body camera, we have to, by the budget, we have to provide them a full-time Commonwealth's attorney. And fortunately, we have a reasonable Commonwealth's attorney. There are some other jurisdictions where they have less than a reasonable Commonwealth's attorney who is demanding that full-time person, even though they have 10, 12 body cameras. And so, yeah, I think Mr. Fleet has been very aggressive in trying to come up with an inexpensive way to save the taxpayer dollars while at the same time complying with an unfunded mandate.
Further discussion?
Mr. Chairman, if I might, since I know you're a member of the Virginia Association of Counties, and I know y'all go to these meetings, this is another problem that they just ignore the rural areas. If you're Fairfax County, hey, it's no problem, or you're Chesterfield County on Rico. They don't even notify these things in the budget so you could talk to your legislator. And it should be their top priority in the coming budget to have this language removed. The other thing I'd like to know is, when did the sheriff's department get the body cameras? And do we pay for
My understanding is the money came from grants, that we did not pay any of the money. We met with the sheriff, and my understanding is the camera, with 20 cameras.
I think there are 9 cameras they purchased with grants and 7 cameras with local money, and their intent in this year is to purchase 4 more cameras.
Supposed to get to 20.
Right, to have 20.
But that doesn't go through us.
Well, it's in the budget. I mean, they will buy it with their equipment line.
Oh, okay. Do they have the necessary recording that how they have to deal with these cameras? I know there's some pretty complicated, I believe, rules on once you get the camera, how you handle information on the camera. Are they meeting those criteria?
They currently have 1 terabyte of storage with the school system. They had made an arrangement with Mr. Arbogast prior to his departure. We did have discussion on their policy the other day on the length of time that they're required to keep that footage. So I think maybe, I don't know which attorney's working with them on that policy, but they have been keeping that footage much longer than the requirement, so they're gonna start deleting some of that.
The other thing, Mr. Abbott, I'm getting ready to cuss, they may come back with requests for some more money, because probably down the road, we're gonna need something a little more sophisticated than what we have. The software that we're using is dated. There's much more sophisticated software for video archiving and editing, and because you have to protect the privacy of people, and so there's duties to redact information. So we had the discussion that we're gonna have to do some things to come into compliance with where the law is going, and it may cost some money.
Just out of curiosity, how long have they had the cameras?
My understanding, a couple of years, yeah.
I mean,
And they're not required to use those on a daily basis. Their policy is not restrictive to where they have to video everything, only.
It's discretionary to the officer at this point.
I understand that. It seems like though it's gonna cost us a lot of money, whether they use them or not, if they've got them in their possession.
Well, I think one of the things that Mr. Fleet has to do going forward is he has to actually start tracking statistics and reporting them to the state. I think the state is trying to gather information as to who's using cameras, how much they're being used, how much footage is being generated. I won't be surprised if the General Assembly starts tackling this issue on a statewide basis in the next couple of years.
Okay, I'm gonna count on our association to get this, help us out a little bit on that.
Mr. Hope.
If I can ask Mr. Fleet a question. How often do you have a case that involves body cam footage that comes to court? Or if you got a ballpark figure?
Mr. Hogan, I don't have a ballpark figure. I would say there are a considerable amount of cases that use the body cam footage when the officer activates it. DUIs, domestics, assault and batteries, things of that nature. Just your run-of-the-mill traffic stop. They normally don't just start it unless the situation starts heading south. So I can't really give you a figure. Just about any DUI we have camera footage that we can show the court as evidence if needed. Domestic assault battery is the same thing. And most crimes against a body will have footage. We may not always use it in court, but we'll have that available.
So just to follow up on that, I mean, I'm assuming, we've been using the cameras 2 years. I'm assuming you're watching that video now, so the General Assembly has decided that all of a sudden we gotta pay somebody else to watch it. Is that what's happening?
No, what we've done so far is we only see the video that the deputies give us. In other words, if they've activated it and they see, we find out that they have video of it. And because of the case, we may say, all right, bring us the video of that, and they'll bring it. We don't view or look at every single video footage that they activate and that they have.
Just evidentiary video.
Just every video that they say, hey, we've got this for the case. So when I read this General Assembly statute or law or whatever you want to call it, we will have to have, and we're working with the Sheriff's Department to have a direct link to a computer in our office. That person is going to have to view every minute, every second of every footage or recording that the deputies record, whether we use it in court or not. The attorney has to view it, determine whether it's going to be used in court. If it is, may have to redact it and to present it, redact, say innocent bystanders or anything like that. And then we have to keep statistics. How many crimes are noted on those recordings, whether they're felonies, misdemeanors, traffic infractions, summons, whatever. We have to keep those statistics to provide quarterly to
So what about non-evidentiary video? We don't charge anybody with a crime. Maybe I got video of it. You go to somebody's, you get a 911 call to somebody's house, you go, you turn your camera on, you go in there, nothing illegal happened, everything's okay, okay, see you, bye. But now I got 15 minutes with a video, do you have to watch that?
According to our interpretation, yes. If it's recorded, we have to view it.
What happens if Mr. Laskin, if we vote no?
Then you gotta give them a full-time employee. Your choices are $35,000 or a full-time employee. It's mandated. It's, what the law says, what the budget item says is you shall provide a full-time employee to them unless he agrees
You
to
gonna
something.
prosecute me less?
I'll be a special prosecutor.
Thank you.
So we don't have an option. This is actually a good deal for us. It's better than the state mandate.
I mean, I'm fine with the MOU, and I understand, you know, the Commonwealth Attorney is trying to help us out. But this just bothers me. Number one, that legislators, nope, we didn't know this was coming. I read about it in the Lynchburg paper. It happened in Nelson County, I think, a couple of weeks ago. And, I mean, I'm in law enforcement. I didn't know it was there.
And, you know, it would be curious to know where it came from, who came up with this idea. And I just like to put this in perspective. This $35,000 a year, and thank you, Les, for agreeing to do it part-time. That would finance for 20 years, $500,000 toward that new remodeling that school, just out of curiosity, you know what it can be used for.
I think we need to realize the 35,000 will only be an escalation operating cost. And we talked about this with equipment replacement and, you know.
I mean, the other.
So, and that's from the law enforcement side, not the Commonwealth Attorney's side of it, so.
Mr. Chairman, the only other option is to get rid of the cameras. No cameras, you don't have to worry about it. You go back to taking the officer's word for it. But we as a society, can we do that anymore? Unfortunately, it's apparently less and less.
There are two things that were stated. It evolved as a work group of Commonwealth attorneys, I believe, a year ago that was appointed to look at this because it was so time consuming for a lot of the localities having to view this video footage that it was taking them from other cases. So when they put the law in place, they said it had to be an attorney also. Because we looked at possibly a technician or what level of expertise this person had to be, and the language clearly states it has to be an attorney.
That language then came from the Commonwealth Attorneys Association.
Mhm.
You can bet on that.
Yeah.
I think if I remember correctly, Chesterfield was the driving force on that.
Oh, imagine.
In Chesterfield, we have 400 or 500 police compared to what we have.
And we were told by the comport, until the state police are required to use it, they will not consider funding any funding to the localities. Because they look at it as a local policy and not a state policy.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask you just a question as an officer? I don't know if we should be in favor, because I'm literally sitting here going, I don't know if I want to vote to do this thing, or do we vote, can we push this off and ask the sheriff? Because I want our officers to be safe. But I also don't want some financial decision and time and, you know, and I don't know that I would want to be, let's just say I was being a paramedic and I was getting ready to treat a patient and I got to push a body camera and have an attorney watch what I do. I don't know that I want that every day. So does the sheriff, what's the benefit risk of that? I want our guys protected. I want them protected in court if it does go to court and one of our guys gets hurt. I want them to be helped, but I also don't want to hurt them on the flip side. And maybe the true law enforcement work is different, but I don't want an attorney watching how I treated a patient, or if I had to get, you know, if that patient's a little disabled or has an altered level of consciousness and I've got to control that patient. I don't know that I want an attorney watching that.
Well,
on an everyday basis.
you wouldn't well on as a rescue squad member, it's a deputy, but if he's standing there and the camera's on, they're gonna record what they're gonna do, and that has to be reviewed.
Oh, right, I'm just trying to relate it to that
Yeah.
work. When I was in that line of work full-time, I just can't imagine, I don't want these guys to feel like, yeah, we want an attorney.
No.
No offense to the attorneys in the room, but I don't know if we wanna tell these guys, hey, yeah, now, every day you show up to work, an attorney's gonna review you. If you feel in danger or you wanna push that button, an attorney's gonna watch every move you make.
If I understand, if I might, it's either 35,000 or 70,000, we don't have a choice. If you vote no on the 35,000, then you automatically have debited the budget $70,000. So if you vote this down, then you double the cost to the county.
And I would say, we had a lengthy discussion on the advantages and disadvantages, and the sheriff felt like in more instances, it was advantageous to the officer rather than.
But that was really all I wanted. So yeah, it's more advantageous to the officer.
Yeah, what the sheriff said is they've had multiple accusations of misbehavior by deputies, and when they pull the video, it refutes what the citizen claimed the deputy.
So they want them in more cases than not, okay.
Okay. Time to take a vote on the MOU. Is there a motion on the floor to approve?
I'll move.
Is that second? I'll second, all right. Further discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ms. Allen?
Yes, ma'am. There are several items in the board book as well as in your newsletter that I just wanted to point out. I won't spend a lot of time on it. First of all, there's a certificate of appreciation for the board from the FFA. There's also an announcement for free music in Cortland Festival Park. Notice the time change from Sunday, June the 30th to Saturday, June the 29th. County Waste also has reached out to the county staff about a visit to the Hanover transfer site. And of course, it's to your discretion whether you want to participate or not, but they thought that that site would mirror the Appomattox site. And since you have not entered into any type of agreement on a host agreement or anything, there may be something we thought that you would see that you wanted to identify that you may want to put in as a protection for the citizens. Or, you know, you may not see anything, but that would just give you that opportunity to see this site operating. They've been issued a CO and will be in operations within the next couple of weeks. So that opportunity is available if you would like to participate. I'm not sure if you would like to maybe invite the press if they would like to attend. And I'm not exactly sure if any of you are attending, but I know staff will be going if no board members.
If it's held on the 26th, I'd like to go.
Okay.
And I hope the press does go. And I hope some county citizens will go, take the opportunity to go.
You can let staff know within the next week or so if you would like to attend. I'll send out a date. Also, the town manager and I have met and we talked about a joint board of supervisors and town council meeting. We're looking at dates August 14th or August 15th, so check your calendars to see if either one of those dates work for you. And we'll be getting together within the next couple of weeks to work on the agenda for that meeting. If you have any suggestions for items of discussion, you can let me know that as well. Ms. Trent was at the meeting tonight to request the extension on the Harbor Price lease agreement. She and Ms. McCoy would like to meet with any board members that are available to discuss that agreement if you're available. So if you want to send me some dates, we'll try to coordinate that.
If you're gonna have more than two, you got a public notice, is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. We'll try to have maybe a work session if more than two members want to participate.
Can I offer a suggestion?
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to create work for somebody else, 'cause I'm not on that committee, but what about the
Facilities.
facilities committee meeting with them?
that's fine, we can do that, if that's the board's pleasure.
I suggested that, she had requested, Mr. Hogan said she had met with them at the last meeting, but I told her you weren't a member of the facilities committee, so I would open it up to the board in case other members wanted to participate, and then we could decide, so. Facilities committee?
We said it.
Okay. Also, I met with Mike Pulis from Department of Historical Resources. He came to a previous meeting of the board. We talked about the assessment. He's got an application. If the board is still interested in moving forward with that assessment, which is free, just give me the okay and I'll take care of that, and he'll come back with a report.
That was for the auditorium, right?
Well, it's for the entire school,
Okay.
which includes the auditorium.
All is free.
Yeah, it's free. No charge. One more thing, did you receive the email about the speed limit signs? I think that was a request at the last meeting, and so I sent out, a response from VDOT on that. And also, we met with VDOT on the transfer station site on June the 3rd, and in response to the citizen concerns that County Waste had heard at the public hearings, they decided that they wanted to try to mitigate some of those concerns, and so the engineer met with VDOT, and they invited us to attend the meeting. And some things that they are looking at that they presented as part of the site plan that will be approved is a reduced footprint from approximately the 22 acres to 7 acres. And basically it's to avoid as much stormwater runoff and, you know, some of the regulatory water issues. They wanted to eliminate some of those concerns by reducing the footprint of the site development as far as E&S controls. Also, there was an access point off of 460, and they had recommended a couple of things based on comments they received from the board as well as public comment. So VDOT's working with them to see if they can have an access off of 460 for the truck traffic, because Mr. Beasley said he would like to eliminate utilization of the Campbell entrance if at all possible, because he heard that as a huge concern. Whether VDOT's going to allow that access point or not, so it may have to go back to the original plan. And then the third proposal was, there was an issue with the access points coming off of 460 because of the cross-section of residential and commercial traffic. So they're doing an additional study to see if we can get a waiver, but they don't feel like there's enough space to issue that waiver. So once they iron out some of those questions, then we'll meet again and look at the new site plan to see if that passes VDOT's approval.
Looks like he's going above and beyond.
He's trying.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman,
That's
so has there been any discussion of just swapping the two entrances? Truck traffic off 460, private vehicle traffic coming in off the Stage Road entrance?
VDOT's major concern is the size of a truck and the speed limit in that section of highway. They feel like a residential vehicle can gain speed quicker than a commercial
Either
vehicle.
way, those trucks are gonna come out on 460, whether the top of the hill or the bottom of the hill.
Well, that's kind
So
of my response.
what's the
but-
difference?
Yeah, that was my response, but the engineers with VDOT have their own opinions. So.
I mean, the trucks are gonna come to a stop at either place and then start on the 460.
And when we have
There's
our
more
next
sight
meeting-
distance at the bottom of the hill. Okay, I just,
If you would like to attend the next meeting, I'll be happy to invite you.
where is it?
Well, it's not scheduled yet.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll let you know though if you come ask those questions. because we've been trying to ask the same questions. I think, oh, one more thing, this Thursday night, Sheriff's Night Out. It's at the high school, from 6 to 8 p.m. So they wanted to extend the invitation if the board members would like to come. I think, Mr. Hogan, you may have gone last year. No, you didn't go. Mr. Carter went, yes. So it's a nice event that's well attended by the community. Any questions?
All right, thank you, ma'am. Moving on, reports and informational items. We have the certificate of appreciation from the Appomattox Senior FFH out, the school May 19 financial report, free music in the Courtland Festival Park that's already been talked about. Also the opportunity on the Hanover transfer site, it's been talked about. Item 24, I did not know this myself till today, about the payment in lieu of taxes by the federal government. So we're gonna get $176,000. No? What are we gonna get?
$176.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, the zero.
Yeah, I was excited too till I looked.
Oh, I was
Chairman, not a combo.
oh, Lord. My heart was just racing like a horse and I ain't even got to the gate yet. Man. Then the NEDOC speed reduction sign, we talked about that. Supervisor concerns. Wait a minute, before we get to that, John. We have in our midst, and I'm glad that he's come by to see us, Mr. Stephen Harvey, who is the outreach director for our Congressman Riverman. We welcome you tonight. We're always glad to see your smiling face. And welcome back to historic Appomattox.
I like outreach, that's better.
Oh, my.
When you talk to Congressman Riggleman, I know this wasn't a federal mandate. No unfunded mandates, please.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna talk to him about that for sure. That's very curious. I heard about it in Nelson County as well, but I didn't actually sit in on the meeting, so very interesting. But what if the cop accidentally left the camera on for like 12-hour shift? Would you have to pay somebody to watch 12 hours of him sitting in the car and
Well,
go
thank
to the
goodness the
bathroom?
battery would run out, and so we would stop it for 12 hours one time.
Okay.
Excuse me. Thank you. Supervisor concerns, Mr. Moody,
Not tonight, sir.
Mr. Evans,
Not tonight.
Mr. Hope,
I think we talked a little wrong.
Mr. Mills.
No.
I have none. Don't forget to about upcoming meetings. But now, we need to engage in a closed session.
Good. Whereas the Board of Supervisors of Appomattox County desires to discuss in closed meeting the following matters. Discussion, consideration of the assignment, appointment, promotion, performance of specific public officers, employees, or employees of the public body and animal control. Discussion, consideration of the acquisition of real property for public purpose, or discussion of the meeting would adversely affect the bargaining position, negotiating strategy of public body with respect to social services. Consultation of legal counsel employed or retained by the public body regarding specific legal matters requiring division of legal advice by such counsel with respect to courts, contract renewal, building litigation, and a specific constitutional officer. And whereas pursuant to sections 2.2, 37, 11A1, A3, and A8 of the Code of Virginia, such discussions may occur in closed meeting. Now therefore be resolved that the Board of Supervisors of Appomattox County does authorize discussion of the forestated matters in closed meeting. Need that as a motion.
They have motion.
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Is that second? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.